Well, good evening and welcome to another How to Rock the Virtual Stage. I'm your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. And every week we are here to help you to learn how to better rock the virtual stage. The virtual stage has emerged through COVID, through so many different reasons, but now the virtual stage is here to help your business, your leadership, your podcast, your webinars to go to the next level. Everyone now is a broadcaster. No matter what industry you're in, you are now a broadcaster, and there's so much more to learn besides just speaking on stage, presenting on stage. This now is a camera studio that we want to help you better learn the rock. And we do that with a lot of different guests every week. Tonight, we have a high level, longtime professional TV star that we're going to have join us tonight, a celebrity in his own right. But coming up next week, Dr. Kaz will be with me on the show. She gets people unstuck. Dr. Kaz works with high celebrity sport athletes and executives. When they get to that point where they're stuck, they don't know what to do next, how to do it, she gets in and helps them move and pivot and adjust. Dr. Kaz will be with us next week because we all have gotten stuck the last several months. She's going to help us get unstuck. In 2 weeks, we're going to go back to C-Suite, and Trisha Ben will be with us. She is the right-hand person to everything that's going on with C-Suite, where our main guest is tonight. Trisha is a great host. She knows how to run the Zoom box. She knows how to keep a group orderly and moving. We're going to learn a lot of great things when she comes to the show next week. But tonight, Jeffrey Hayzlett is with us. He is the primetime TV host on C-Suite. It's C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett. You can check that out. And Executive Perspectives with C-Suite TV. He's also got his own podcast, All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett, and that's also on C-Suite Radio. And he's the chairman, CEO of C-Suite Network. He's the author of a really great book we're going to talk about tonight called The Hero Factor. And one of the coolest things, he actually hung out with Donald Trump pre-presidency on The Celebrity Apprentice. He was one of the panelists, one of the stars of the series. And here is Jeffrey Hayzlett. Welcome to the show tonight, Jeffrey.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Trigger. It's good to be on here tonight. I appreciate it, man. I've hung out with him since he's been president too. Whether you like him, by the way, whether you like him or not, he's still the president. So you gotta from time to time check in.
Well, that's one of the first things I want to talk about. You work with Kodak, you work with a lot of different companies, but somehow you moved into celebrity. You crossed over from the business and other things into celebrity. How did that occur?
Well, when you look like this, you got to expect that. I mean, that's just the way it works. Now, it just something that kind of occurred, and I don't consider it that way. I mean, I'm just me, but it is something. My kids, as they were growing up a little bit when we started doing this, is, Dick, can we go somewhere where no one knows you? Or, those kind of things. Or when you're in line at the airport and someone says, hey, I really like your book, or something. Or I always like it when I'm on flying now. Like last night I was flying and I'm watching people watch on TV, and the guy next to me in first class had my show on, and he's looking at me and looking at his phone and looking at me. And I was on United last night flying back from Gary, Indiana. So, yeah. It's just something that kind of occurred. I went and left Kodak. When I left Kodak, I went off and did my own show on Bloomberg. And of course, it was a judge on Celebrity Apprentice. That helped a great deal. I mean, without question, that was a big thing. But I was also, active on, a lot of TV shows as an executive. I used that as a tool, which is what you said today. Everybody's in broadcast right now. I mean, everybody should be broadcasting. Everybody should be podcasting. Everybody, you're the brand, and you got to sell yourself. And the way you sell yourself is through content. That's it. Name of the game.
Well, so let's talk about the birth of C-Suite. So
Yeah.
C-Suite is a term, it's been around, but now you have the C-Suite network. This has blossomed into being radio, TV, podcast. This thing is exploding. Tell us about this whole thing.
Yeah, we own pretty much about 150 properties around that name, and just something that we kind of moved into. I had this show called The C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett on Bloomberg, and that was such a great hit that we decided to take it and create a community around it because we had such avid followers and a great place. I knew the value of being able to get together with peers when I was in the C-Suite myself. So I would get together with other CMOs, and we would get together and figure out how we do the things that we do. How can I save money? How can I get out of this or get out of that? And that was so valuable to me that I said, wouldn't everybody else like to do it? So we at first were going to create the CEO network. In fact, that's what it was until the night before we launched. we had done all the mock-ups, all the artwork. We'd taken it to a design agency. We had the website created. We had the website ready to go. We had everything. And the night before, I said, no, we should call it the C-Suite Network. I wonder if that's open. And we went online and we bought the name, and overnight we redid everything and recreated. We did it with the same typeset that we had the CEO Network. I'm just glad that we did it. It's just much bigger.
So one of the things that, just in my short time being in the C-Suite, now being one of the shows, is that you have talked about, if you can find a web thread, if you can find a hashtag that fits you, grab it,
Yeah,
brand it,
absolutely.
protect it, right? Talk about
Yeah.
the importance of that right now.
Well, own the category, and someone says, oh, I'm by myself. Well, if you're by yourself, then nobody else wants it. But, so go own the category, be the category. And so in this case, nobody owned the C-Suite. No one really owned it. If you look at today, if you look at anything with C-Suite on it, you'll see us all over it. Now, other people are, jumping in as well. And, some people say, aren't you jealous of that? No, it's very flattering because they're catching up, or maybe they might try to catch up, but we've owned it for a while. And of course, I said we own many intellectual properties around this, but we have, C-Suite Loans, C-Suite Supplies, C-Suite Book Club, C-Suite SEO, C-Suite Connect. I know many more that we own that we haven't launched yet. I even own C-Suite Cologne. The smell of success. Would someday we might do that, So there's all kinds of different things that we do as part of it. But yeah, you want to be known as the leader in the category. You want to own the category. So create your category and own the boundary view and be bigger than you can. I mean, be as big as you can. That's the key for this big shift, because we're going through right now. I mean, with COVID, days are weeks, weeks are months, months are years. And if you don't understand this digital market that you're in, which was even more intense than it was, a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, without question, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So with COVID, with the advent of the virtual stage just exploding, like you were just saying, there's so much creative potential. I tell people, this is not a small box. This is an ever expanding box right now. Would you agree with that? That this box right now has no limits?
Oh, without question. I mean, it gives you, I've been thinking, well, geez, C-Suite's just this local group in the United States and Canada. Are you kidding me? We had somebody from Israel join today. We have somebody from South Africa join. I'm now trying to figure out, okay, now how can I serve this market from abroad, And that's the things you got to be able to go do.
So what did you learn from Kodak and everything else that turned you into this maverick marketing branding genius? People have called you a maverick. What's it all about? How did you break the mold?
I don't know. I don't know. I just get it done. I do it. I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is they're afraid to do it. I'm not afraid to do it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen with you if you fail? No one's going to die. So if no one's going to die, it's not like we're operating. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a sales guy. It's not like I'm going to operate on someone and they might die. This isn't the case. This is like marketing stuff. So it didn't work. Try something different. Change it. That's the nature of the internet. You can just change it. Ooh, so what if you put it out with a misspelling in it? Ooh, who cares? Just change it. I mean, that's what you do. Test A, test B, go C. Now that doesn't work. Go back to A. Now try this one. Maybe you started it too soon. Now go back and try it again. I mean, you don't, like when you're playing football and you drop a pass, you don't quit. You throw another one. And in fact, you got 4 tries before you have to give the ball to the other guy to get to where you want to go. So that's the same way it should be, right? I mean, to me, that's the way you should look at it. Look, are you going to fail? Yeah. Are you kidding me? The key isn't to fail fast. The key is to win fast. That's what we have to do. This failing stuff, it sucks. Who wants to do that? But you're going to do it. Okay. So just figure out the best way to win. That's what I want to do.
What's been your biggest belly flop then? What has been the one that you've looked back and gone, okay, that was a huge swing and a miss. That was like horrible.
Are you kidding me? I haven't done it yet, which means there's always a bigger one coming. Are you kidding? The last were good belly flops, but trust me, I got a lot of good belly flops to come. I mean, and that's how I look at it. You know, people say, well, what's the worst mistake you ever done? I don't know. I haven't done it yet. Meaning there's always going to be a bigger one. If you're doing what you need to be doing. I mean, I watched the World Series last night. The guy struck out a couple times. Like he keeps swinging, man. That's what you want. You know, that's what you want. You want him to try to steal home. I like that Mookie guy. I don't even know who this ball player is because I don't watch sports that much. But man, he ran home. It was unbelievable. It was awesome. That's what you want to see. You know, you wanted to give it a shot. He could have been thrown out. He could have missed it, but who cares? He didn't. He won.
So try again. But that also makes the conversation shift to heroes. You have the Hero Factor book out.
Yeah.
It's done very well for you. I'm going to launch a poll here for our audience tonight. We're going to talk about heroes for a second, but what makes a leader? What makes a hero? Is it personality, passion? Is it education? Is it your vision? Is it money? Is it how many followers you have, for example? Is it your integrity or is it your experience? We're going to let them vote on this for a second.
There you go.
You guys cast your votes. But before you speak too much into it, tell us about the Hero Factor, just in a general sense, because the book's done extremely well for you.
Well, what we found is part of looking at businesses. We started looking at businesses that were put people above profits. You know, people that put on values. We started to see that these companies did better than any other company. You know, we found out that they were the number one grossing businesses in their industry. They made more money than anyone else in their industry. They had employees who were happier. They had customers that were more engaged as well. And they had vendors who wanted to do business with them. And of course, when they walked through the city or the town that they operated in, everybody pointed at them and said, oh my gosh, these are great, great, great leaders. And so that's what you want when you got a hero business. And that's indeed what we found, is that they were based truly on values, and the values, you know, really put them in. Someone had put a stake in the ground and said, we're going to stand for this. And that's pretty important when 53% of employees today can't tell you the values of the company.
And interesting enough, you talk about values. I coach a lot on that. You speak a lot on that. We're both going to be speaking at an employee retention event coming up on that very subject matter.
Awesome. When are we doing that? I don't even know when we're doing that. That's awesome.
It's coming up very soon.
If you say I'm doing it, I'm excited by it. That's good. I love it.
Yeah, no. And so employee retention, especially in the new virtual landscape, talk about that, because people thought this was going to be a dud. They thought this was going to be a waste of time. And look how amazing the relationship, the new possibilities are through the virtual lens. Talk about retention and that value system through the camera lens, if you would.
Well, I think, you know, for us, in terms of being able to deliver messages, to have conversations, to expand our, you know, the communication, to expand our audiences, our tribes, without question, this has been a huge, huge plus. I mean, it's got some drawbacks. I mean, you don't hear the laughter as you give a speech as you used to. You don't have those things. And those things are difficult. For employees, I think there are some real challenges. I think to keep people, because they're not working with their comrades, they're not working together elbow to elbow. There are some real challenges, and you know, depression comes into that. There's some downsides to this. You don't get to see the nuances sometimes. You know, are they working fully all the time? Those are questions. And some people, quite frankly, I mean, I have some employees that work for us who say, I'm not good at working at home. You know, it's just not for them. And I've had some employees during this entire process who did not stay at home and went to the office every single day because they said, this is not good for me. And that was their choice, certainly, you know, in terms of how we doing it. And of course, you know, going back with a bigger workforce is even more challenging with all the stuff that's going on, how you have to checkerboard people and put up plexiglass and mask and everything else. So it's difficult, but it's got its challenge. I think overall, it's given us the ability to relook at how we connect. You know, if you would have told me that a year ago this would be working, I would have said, you're nuts. You're nuts. There's no way. There's nothing that's going to beat this, you know, belly to belly rubbing kind of stuff. It's, you know, where I can shake your hands and so forth. But it's not only working, it's not only thriving, it's driving. You know, it isn't a matter of survival with the C-Suite network. I mean, today we had a record day of new members joining, and it's amazing. The podcasting is up 480% year over year downloads. Year over year downloads on C-Suite Radio is up 480%. Oh my gosh. If you would have told me that a year ago, I would have said you're nuts, and you're not only nuts, we need to put you in a loony bin
Well,
because
I
yeah.
I think the other night on one of our calls, I think you said, if I'm correct, maybe by the end of the year, at the rate this is exponentially growing, we could have doubled even
Oh
this
yeah, we're
number
gonna
by the end of the
double,
year
we'll
at the
double
rate
the
it's going.
size. We'll be, I think at this rate right now, today we're at 250 shows. That's low because I know we've signed 50 new ones over the weekend. So that's amazing, that we're having that kind of thing. But we have big groups of podcasters now coming to us because of our affiliation. Being part of a network, being part of a tribe is so important for people, and how people find people. If they like you, Trigger, they're going to love me, that kind of thing, that
Yeah,
connection, and it's really positive. So, and if you listen to one podcast, you listen to 6. If you watch one business show, you watch 10. So we know that to be true. But I think we'll be at 1,000 shows by this time next year. Yeah. That's 4
that's
times. That's a 4x growth over 1 year.
that's incredible. Here's what
Yeah.
our poll results are. I'm going to let you talk into this a little bit and share your thoughts, but this is leadership results. The top
Oh,
one is passion. They think for
I love
leadership,
passion.
passion.
Yeah, I think for a leader, that's without question, that's the case. You have to have passion for what you have to do. You have to be, grounded in what you do. Now, passion alone won't make that. It's got to be really linked to values, and having a good stance. And we're seeing that with a lot of great businesses today in terms of being able to say, no, I'm going to do it this way. Now, you might not agree with them. You might not like their politics or their values or their position, but you need to respect it. My job isn't to change you. My job is to understand what you do and how you do it. I mean, give you a couple of great examples of this, like Kathy Truitt now, or Truitt Kathy. I can't remember. I always get it. I'm a little verbally dyslexic. I think it's Truitt Kathy, I believe. And he's the CEO, founder of Chick-fil-A. Now, I don't know if like Chick-fil-A. I stopped there the other day. I was in Gary, Indiana, and making his big announcement there. And I said, I got to go somewhere for breakfast. Well, we don't have a Chick-fil-A anywhere where I live. So I like a good chicken sandwich. So I stopped by there and I was reminding myself of the story. Here's a leader who's got a great business, does a super job, closes on Sunday because he wants people to have a rest, on Sunday. He believes that's the day of Sabbath. That's his prerogative, what he does. I'd like to see him open on Sunday, but I respect that he doesn't. But he also doesn't believe in same-sex marriages, very vocal about it. But does that stop me from going? Because I don't believe in that. I mean, I've got a cousin who's gay and he's got a husband. I know there are people who don't get along and divorce. And so if somebody wants to get married to somebody, regardless of what their sex is, I think more power to them because they're going to be happy, right? But nonetheless, he doesn't believe in that. But that's his prerogative, right? As a business, I can choose not to go there or not. But I tell you what I respect. I respect that he's taken a side. He's picked a side. And that says something about somebody and about a leader, because a lot of business leaders, a lot of people out there will say, ooh, that's not mine to say, right? And I think that's the opposite of what we should do. I think we should run into the fire. I think that's our responsibility, is to be business first responders, and on issues and on community events and on key decisions. And I think we should let those things be known. Even if you and I disagree, Trigger, I will defend your right to disagree with me. And I'll still be your friend, unless your views are so whacked that I just can't comprehend that. But by and large, if you're a good human being and a good person and you're based in your own sets of values, who am I to judge you based on that? I'll judge you as a human being.
Well, and that's for integrity.
Yeah.
Again, the best leaders, even if you don't agree, will stand. They will be consistent, and you at least can say you're consistent there. I can go down with that. It's the
Yeah.
inconsistent leader that drives me crazy.
Well, it's in the book, the hero factor. I actually talk about this, the need to pick a side. It's important. I don't care what it is, just pick one, right? Because then at least I know where you stand and I can trust you to always be consistent on that in that way. And a lot of us don't do that. Yeah, I don't care for the way some people take a knee, but I defend it. I don't care for the way some people burn a flag, but I defend it. or that they protest or march in the ways that they do. Now, some of those where they break the law, hurt other people and so forth, well, I'm totally against that, because that's not the way we should have peaceful protest in terms of what we do. But I'll defend your right to protest. I'll defend your right to speak on the corners and shout as loud as you want or as long as you want. I'll even plug in the damn PA system for you, for that matter. But there you go.
Well, that's about planting the flag, standing your ground, and doing it with dignity, doing it with integrity. Yeah. And again, right now through this virtual lens, again, back to the podcast, back to the web shows like mine that are popping up, that people are planting flags in new ways. They do have a new voice. You've had a long career in broadcasting. Give us some insights of how you do this well. How do you really do this well, do you think?
Well, I think it's about being you. First of all, it's about being you. All right. So being genuine. Don't come on and try to be me. Don't come on and try to be Trigger. Be you. Because if you're you, then that's your own uniqueness that comes through. And from that, you'll find other people like you and be able to build a tribe. Do it consistently. That's another piece that you want to do it. Do it as best in terms of quality as you possibly can. Of course, right now, look, I mean, any one of us can put up a light. We got a great camera. You can come on C-Suite TV, C-Suite Radio, and you've got a show. You got a show, Our Greg Greenberg, who heads up our media, he's always going, hey, let's do a show. Let's do a show. That's his big favorite saying. And that's the case for a lot of us. And I think most of us need to have more time to spend with that. The other thing is, I think you should try to be interesting. I think you should be a thought leader in some way, shape, or form. So if you're the best at what you do, tell people you're the best at what you do and show us that you're the best at what you do. Or if you're not good at it, at least tell us, hey, I suck at it, but I'm going to give it a shot, and that's okay too. I think that's all right.
Well, and there's so many people trying it, and people were floundering during the first part of the shutdown. They seem to have gotten better with it, but I think one of the new trends is, and correct me if I'm wrong from your side, collaboration. It used to be, let's just go do the Lone Ranger. Let's just go do them on my own.
No. We're stronger together.
Now collaboration is a big thing, isn't it?
Well, we're stronger together. I mean, that's the nature of why we have C-Suite TV, C-Suite Radio, C-Suite Book Club. By all of us banding together, we're stronger. It's about relevancy, reach, and reciprocity. That's the cornerstones of the C-Suite network. First of all, we're relevant for each other, reaching similar audiences and similar groups and similar people with similar ideas. Meaning, is it relevant? Is it in scope? Well, for me, everything in the C-Suite follows under this, what I call giant sequoia tree, and underneath this sequoia tree is this beautiful canopy, and under this canopy is this beautiful environment and ecosystem. Well, that's what the C-Suite network is. So we gather people together that are similar so that we can operate underneath this. No different than Salesforce has done, no different than Facebook has done, no different than Amazon has done, where they create a community, this canopy, or what I call sequoia effect, which allows you the ability to be able to go and operate under the canopy of this tree. And then I think the other piece of it that we do is we start having this reach together. By you coming on board, it adds more reach to me. I've got a bigger reach with the entire network. Combine those together, we got a bigger reach. And so that's a pretty cool thing. And then the third piece is about reciprocity. What can I do to help you? What can you do to help me? And that really comes in the neighborhood of really doing the gives. How can I give something for you? And the more that I give to you, Trigger, more, like coming on this show, it's what, 7:30 at night, my time. Are you kidding? I should be eating right now and having some scotch. But nonetheless, here I am. So, excuse me, we got snow here in South Dakota, so I've caught a cold already. So, but it's really truly about reciprocity. How can I help you? How can you help me? And the more that we do that for each other, well, that's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good thing to have happen. And that's the way business should operate. That's the way the world should operate. The world should operate like this.
Yes. And we actually talked about that on our call last week. And one of our breakout sessions, we actually got in that conversation of why aren't we duplicating the C-Suite? Why aren't we duplicating those values that we're?
Ooh, I like that. I like that idea. Why don't we triple the C-Suite or quadruple the C-Suite? Not just duplicate it. Why think small, Trigger? Let's go big, huge. Let's go big.
See, that's why we love having Jeffrey around. Jeffrey always goes to the next level. And I told you, you never know what's going to happen. Don't forget, everyone, we're going to bring you into the show in just a little bit. You can ask your own questions of Jeffrey. I want to talk a little bit about marketing now. You are a marketing genius. When you think about this new funnel of web and internet, what are the new marketing employees that we should be learning to elevate these things and grow these
Oh
things?
man. I tell you, every day I was on the phone with the person that's the general manager for our book club, and we're making so many changes there in the way in which we do it. And this young woman was going through a hack that she was teaching me. And I'm going like, whoa, how smart is she? This is awesome. Okay. And then I wrote down, how can I take that idea and apply it somewhere else besides the book club, right? So I like to do what I call step and repeat. Once you find out something that works really good here, let's go do it over here, right? And let's repeat that. So you step and you repeat, step and repeat, and you keep building. But right now, for all of us, there are so many great hacks that are you can get for $10 a month or $100 a month or $1,000 a month, where it used to be I'd have to have a whole team that did this, you know? And it's just amazing for me to be able to see those kinds of things. I think that's the most unique piece of it. And you know, you can, and then I think also with this, you can have all these great experts at your fingertips where you can outsource it and have people available for you to do it. Whereas before, I'm always thinking, oh, I can't do that. And then I was talking to Dan Burris about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Dan Burris is a futurist, and we were talking, and I'm saying, well, I'm going to go build this thing called the C-suite radio thing, but I'm going to have to do this, and I'm going to have to do this, and I'm going to have to do this. And he went, Jeff, you're thinking wrong. And I went, oh yeah, what do you mean I'm thinking wrong? Nobody usually tells me that too often. And you might tell me I'm stupid or you'll never get it done. But but he said, you're thinking wrong. I said, what are you talking about? I got to go hire this person. I got to go do this. I got to go do this. He goes, X is a service. I go, what the hell are you talking about? X is a service. He goes, why do you have to do it? And I went, oh my gosh, I don't. I can find other people to do it and then contract or get them to do it. And maybe I can even offer it as a service. So I don't have to build the infrastructure for the hosting of podcast. I can go get it from somebody else and yet put and make it mine. And so how can you do this and this and this? Now, could it be more valuable that way? Yeah. But it's going to cost me more money to go after and have to build that and do it. It's going to take me longer to get it done. But so while I'm doing that, I can go do this. And so those are some valuable things I think we can learn and lessons learned as a result of thinking a little differently. And I think that's what this is giving us. I mean, right now, certainly with COVID, to rethink the way, I mean, think about how COVID is going to change personal relationships. All right. My wife and I, who is, she's 5'1", 105 pounds. She wears the pants in this family. She wears the shoes, the dress. She drives the bus. I mean, she's the boss. And yet we have had a very fairly what somebody would call traditional relationship in terms of she stayed home mostly. She took care of the kids, even though she had her own career for many years up until the kids got into grade school. Once they got into grade school, then she played more of a traditional role. But that doesn't mean she's not the boss. Well, now imagine if we're advanced to today's world, right? Kids are running around. Who's in charge? Who takes care of this? Who does this? Who does the diapers? Who does it? I'm not saying that that's the way it should be. Don't get me wrong. No cards or letters here. I'm just saying it's going to change the way we do things. It just does. Like, I washed the dishes in the house. That's one of my rules. I clean the bathrooms mostly. I do that. We have different rules. I don't wash anything. I don't wash any clothes. I'm not allowed to do any of that, but because I just throw them all in at the same time. But then, but it changes the roles about when we do it and how we do it. You could be doing laundry in the middle of the day now and still be working, right?
Right. And this has changed the whole work cycle. It was Monday through Friday. There really are no weekends anymore. Some people love having
I don't know what a weekend
Sunday
is.
business calls. There are no weekends.
No, I don't know what a weekend is. Right now I'm working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm on the phone. I just got off the phone with Vietnam and I'm working a deal that's like $101 billion trying to get that thing closed and for a board that I'm on. And yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah.
coming up, we're going to start bringing everybody in here. But while we're bringing everyone into the show, I want to ask you, be a futurist for a second. What do you think is going to happen with entertainment and the way we're doing anything now? Where do you think post-COVID hybrid, is this thing still going to be the engine? Are we
Yeah.
forever going to be in here, or is something even newer going to come out of all this, do you think, as a
I
futurist?
think one of the things you're going to see is more curated events, more curated activities, more curated conventions, meetings, things like that, and smaller, not bigger. Actually, the opposite of that. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think entertainment's going to be much more diverse than it is today. And the reason for it is because you can. And I think you'll see everything that you didn't think you could do before in different ways. It's just going to be very unique. We're doing, wine tasting events that we're doing, and
Yeah.
we're doing virtual wine tasting events that some people would say you're nuts, but they're hugely successful. I'm doing Scotch tasting events today. Our team talked with a major sponsor who wants to be a sponsor of my Scotch tasting event. And if you would have told me that I would be drinking every Sunday with friends online and people I don't know, which by the way, I enjoy drinking Scotch, and we're having all kinds of great fun. And it's the one thing that I make sure, I don't care what's going on, nothing gets in the way of that Scotch event, or these wine tasting events. And we have singers coming on and musicians playing, and it's a touching, loving, unbelievable thing. I think it's very cool. So yeah, it's all going to change.
One more question before we open it up to everyone else. Thank you for jumping in, everybody. Bring your cameras on. Just leave your microphone muted for right now. We'll bring you in and out, but join us with the visuals if you would. When you speak about the surprise of the intimacy, the surprise people that you're getting in, there are no back seats. Everyone's literally in your living room now. We have
Yeah.
gone to celebrities' homes. I mean, Stallone has his own TikTok going. He has invited people into his world privately. Do you think this is a trend, or are we going to stay even that way, do you think, for this personal relationship, more open doors?
Well, you got to put some different rules around it. You can't be open, they can't be big, like the show Big Brother where everything's in and you can see me in the bathroom. I mean, there's got to be some rules about the way that you walk away from it. And I think you have to learn some discipline there for yourself, for your own mental being. Otherwise, if you don't have that, my wife and I passed each other on the hallway the other day coming up down the stairs, and we went, "Oh, traffic jam." Because we're making my commute to work, right? It was going down the stairs, and I think you've got to put some real rules around it. Otherwise you'll work 24. I mean, it's bad. Because I'm an addict. I'm a workaholic, and I mean, really, truly a workaholic. I mean, seriously have to get help for it because I like work so much that it's just like, for me, it's just like being an alcoholic or a drug addict. I really, truly thrive on it. And I have to be careful to put rules around it where, nope, gotta stop. No different than you should with social media, turning your, 1 hour a day this is it. This is all I'm going to look at Facebook. Otherwise you'd be there and 6 hours later. I mean, hello,
Right.
yeah, you're still watching cat videos and whatever else that you'd want to watch. I don't know. I'm not watching a cat video, but I do watch cooking shows online, and I like those where they cook stuff. I mean, I enjoy the heck out of that. And anyway, so there's some of those that I get behind, and I'm going like, I got to stop watching this.
Well, Jeff, this is our chance. Let them ask questions. They've been listening in and following along.
I see some
Raise your
good
hand a
friends
little
on. I
bit.
see some good friends on
Oh
here. It's good
yeah,
to
oh
see
yeah.
them.
We
Yeah.
will see some of your friends here. And all right, Pete, you're gonna go first tonight. I'm gonna try to unmute you here. There you are. Welcome to the show, Pete. You get to go first.
Thanks, Trigger. Good to see you. And hi, Jeff. How are you?
Hey, Pete.
Jeff, I wanted to ask you a question relating to, since this is content and visual presentation, digital presentation. Can you walk us through the theory of the content pyramid, if you will, and the progression of the value of the content and making the content providers more valuable as they go on? I know it's within the C-suite model, so walk us through that scale a little bit.
Well, I'm a real believer. You take an idea or something or a piece of content. You heard me talk about step and repeat, and some people say, well, I write a blog. Well, what happens if your customers don't read the blog? Well, then you need something else. Well, I'm going to do a podcast. Well, what happens if they don't listen to a podcast? or what happens if they don't listen they listen to podcasts, but not on the places you put them. So or they don't listen to podcasts, but they watch videos. Okay. Or where they watch the videos. I can tell you what executives listen to and when they listen and how many times a day they listen and how many times a day they watch. I'm following that stuff all the time. So I know what days are most popular, at least in terms of the, core audiences that we have. I can tell you what the average length of time they'll watch. I can tell you what devices are most popular for the ones that they download on. I mean, so my point is you have to be able to create pieces of content in different forms. And then you have to be able to get that to where the people pay attention. Now, I don't know if you remember, there used to be a comedian by the name of Sam Kinison. He was a funny guy. He was kind of balding, but really long hair, and he wore a hat. He always wore a trench coat. And his father was an Episcopal minister as well, or Pentecostal minister. And so he was kind of a holy roller, screaming and shouting. And so Sam was very much like him. And he used to do this routine where he used to say he had a routine about starving people. Now, before you write letters and email me and tweet about me, it was still a funny bit. I don't care who you are. And he would say about people who were starving in the desert, he goes, you live in the desert, move to where the food is. Food doesn't grow in sand. It doesn't grow in the desert. Go to where the food is. And so the content that you create, you have to go where your customers are. So you might like Facebook. You might like LinkedIn. You might like a blog. You might like this. You got to do it all. And you have to go out as many pieces. So I look at everything, because some of you will say, well, a short video. Yep, that's all that works. Everybody wants stuff that's shorter. Well, that's bullshit. Think about it. How many of you guys have downloaded and watched and binged over the weekend the entire 8 seasons of Downton Abbey? Okay, or something. All right. If it's good content and you like it, and it's educational, motivational, inspirational, or just mind blowing, and you don't have to think about stuff, it's going to turn you numb, and you like it, you will watch it. Okay, or you will listen to it, or you will read it, and you will never put it down. Now, how can you create something of great interest to someone in that fashion that they want to consume that? Now, maybe it's a tweet, maybe it's a post, maybe in each one of those you have to treat differently. Like Twitter, for instance. Some people say, well, Twitter is dead. Bullshit. It's not dead. It's the first place I go when I hear there might be an accident in the city, or there might be a fire or whatever. I'm searching for that first, because I know that it'll pop up there before, somebody will take a picture of a forest fire and then cooking a hot dog on it, on Instagram. That takes a while for that to happen. So Twitter is like you're sitting on your front porch, and Twitter is like a car driving by and waving at you. Okay. And then LinkedIn is kind of like a sign on Main Street that says, hey, come here for, good eats or something. And so that's your kind of your sign, your place to do your business. And then Facebook is kind of like your parlor, and you invite someone into your house. So each thing, each way is a different way of doing it. And you're going to find that the case with podcasting, with a television show. It's like, we have a lot of people who are in business who are saying, well, I'm going to put my show on YouTube. Well, how many people in business go and watch YouTube for business content? They don't. I can tell you that. They just don't. You go to YouTube if you want to learn how to change your air filter on your power wash, okay? Or how to trap beavers that are cutting down your trees, like I did here recently again, and or this or that. So you want to find the way in which you deliver the content to the places that the people watch or consume or eat or drink or sleep or want to have that content. So that's the way I look at it, Pete. And so there's not one way. And I never say that. Do the way you want to do it. That's first of all, because then you'll do it. Okay. Like for instance, the daily LinkedIn and the daily Instagrams. I'm starting to do it. I got it on my calendar every day to do it, but I haven't got into the habit of doing it yet. Right. And so that's difficult because it's not something I'm used to doing. I'll get there. But I also don't like the time considerations they have to. So I have to make them more snackable for Instagram. You can only say 15 seconds, like crap. You know, it's hard for me to say something in 15 seconds. I'd rather use 15 minutes. Kind of like answering this question. I could go on for 3 days.
See, but that's part of the challenge. All these platforms are doing different things now. So you may have good content, but you do have to learn how to do it in bite-sized chunk. Sound bites is one of the big things broadcasters have learned. So it's now a soundbite culture, right, Jeff? This is all soundbite.
Well, to grab people's attention. You know,
Right.
I've always said this in my first book I wrote in the Mirror Test. It's 118 seconds. It's eight seconds is the average attention span of an adult. You know, I know that to be true. I read that on the internet. You know, so there you go. You know, but that's what you got to be able to grab their attention, and then to make it that snackable piece, but only for the attention. I think, Trigger. I think if I make it interesting, you'll go deep. You know, especially when it comes to business, you'll dive deep. You know, and so my job is to give you something enough to make you want to jump in. You know, I'll show you the pool, but I want to make you dive in, and that's, I think, the key that you need to do.
Who else has got a question for our guests tonight? Anyone raise your hand and we will bring you on and we'll open up your microphones and let you go. Who else has one? Okay, Michelle. By the way, Jeff, Michelle, as we mentioned earlier, is across the world. She's an Australian.
Oh, where are you at, Michelle?
Today. You are on, Michelle.
Unmuting. So, so I'm from Melbourne.
Oh, Melbourne. I used to have an office in Carnegie.
This is a real background.
Yeah. I used to, you know where Carnegie is, don't you?
Yes, not that far.
I know. I used to have an office there. So, and I'm saying it right for all you people that don't know that. That's how you say it in Australia.
I would have told you said it wrong, but no, you did say it right. I don't have a question. I just want to say that it's so refreshing to see someone so successful be so humble. Like I love your pizzazz. I just love that you're genuine and there's no bullshit about you. I love all that.
I appreciate that. Some people would tell you that I'm not so humble sometimes, but that's okay too. You know, I always tell somebody it's not bragging when it's true. That's what I always tell people. It's not bragging when it's true, you know. But at the same time, you got to be a human being. You got to be who you are. So, thank you very much.
And that's a big part of this new lens is being genuine, being real. By the way, it's 10:30 in the morning over there, right, Michelle?
Yeah. It is currently 11:42.
11:42. All right. So, thank you.
I was talking to somebody from Perth earlier today.
Yep.
That was the beginning of my day.
So you get around. So there you go.
I do. Well, Perth and Vietnam. I just got the phone with Vietnam right before the call, and then I got to go back on the call with them because they're just getting up as well.
Who has another question for our guest tonight? Who's gonna try to stump Jeffrey on anything from broadcasting to the leadership to the business world? Who would like to ask him a question tonight? This is your chance to get free coaching, free access here.
Hey, Triggers, Jeremiah Hunter.
Yeah, Jeremiah, go ahead.
Mr. Hayzlett, I appreciate your time this evening, and it's really awesome to see you get your perspective. The niche that I'm really trying to exploit is the podcast world. I've been fascinated by it for years and attempting to get my own going. Could you expand a little bit more specifically on how someone can use a podcast to start establishing their brand presence, getting their message out? Maybe something that wouldn't be thought of just by scrolling some how-to articles.
You bet. So let me just tell you, to give you some stats, Jeremiah, just on B2B podcasts, because we look at this the average business podcast is between 22 and 27 minutes. That gives you an idea of what it is. I keep mine about 22 to 24 with a little bump in the beginning. And then I always do a kind of an end. Here's what I was thinking of. When I first got started with my podcast, my first podcast was for CBS here in the United States. And so I was a lead anchor for CBS and their network. And I was the business anchor. There was a guy named Boomer Esiason who was the sports anchor. Carson Daly, who many of you might know, was the was the pop, and then Jennifer Beal, who's, I guess she's married to Justin Timberlake. I guess I didn't know who she was, but anyway, she was the culture person, and so, but that's the average that you see. But when I first got started, my podcast was 60 minutes. I did it just like a TV show, and I had blocks of time and would do all this stuff. And then I realized, well, that didn't work. And so what we find is that most business podcasts need to be in the length of time you would normally commute to work or work out. That's what we found to be very effective. So that's one thing you want to make sure you always do, Jeremiah, is figure out who's your real core audience you think of going to be doing, and play to that strength. Because if I would have paid attention to myself, I would be down an audience pretty quick, because I was almost 3 times the length or 2 times the length of what it would normally be. So that's one piece. I'll give you the biggest single hint for a podcast. Most people, there's 2 things you want to go. Do you want fame or do you want fortune? Pick, because it's going to change the way you do your podcast. Now, I personally like fortune. All right. And if I'm really, really good at what I'm doing, I'll get the fame. And if I don't, at least I'll make enough money I can buy it. Okay. If that's really what I want. Okay. So I always look at it from that perspective. So I think you should focus in on, at least my advice would be, to be really good at what you do and your message, so that it attracts a group. And it doesn't have to be huge numbers. The average business podcast, you would be in the top 10% of podcasts in the world if you get to 2,500 listeners. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Top 10%. You get up to about 10,000, you'll be in the top 1% in the world. And there's very few podcasts that do that. We have 250 podcasts, and I will tell you that only half of them get to that level today. And so that just gives you an idea. It's a tough thing to do. But the single piece of advice I can give to any podcaster is monetize the podcast, not through the advertising, not through your listeners. That's a good thing, because we sell advertising, we do those things. But most people, when I sell podcast advertising, I call them and they go, Jeff, how did we do? How many, did we get a lot of ads? Did we make a lot of money? And I say, well, I got good news for you, and I got bad news for you. Good news is we sold something. Bad news is we're going to go to lunch on what we sold, and you should bring a coupon. Okay, because it's just not much, right? So you can't look at it from that perspective, but your reach is important, all those things. What you want to do, Jeremiah, if you do anything, is invite the people you're going to interview. Those are the people you want to do business with. Because in that interchange, that conversation, you've just used your status as a podcaster to get to who you want to get to, and you're going to extract knowledge from them. And in the course of that, they're going to see how great you are, okay, and how smart you are, and they're going to go, oh, I'm going to want to do business with you. Now, that won't happen for all, let's say, 52 guests, right? Because you're going to do 50, you're going to do one a week on average, because they're usually weekly. Now, some are daily. Some people do more than that. I know one guy who does 26 podcasts himself. It's amazing. And he's very good at what he does. He's in the top. He's an attorney, and they're all legal podcasts, by the way. And most of those he does himself. He doesn't do with a guest. So one of the suggestions, but if you were to get 5 new clients out of a year, would that be, something that you would go like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. That would be a good use of your time. Would you, if you could convert a third of those people, that'd be through the roof, right? So you want to utilize the podcast. And that's one of the things that we say in the C-Suite Network, is to utilize the targeting of your guest as a way in which you will be able to reach a lot of your clients. And we got Mike Skripnik's here. He's a podcaster. He'd probably tell you that's worked out pretty effectively for him and for others that do that. It's just a good way of being able to get. I mean, I use that all the time. I interviewed the president of the IFA, the International Franchising Association. Then I put out a report about what he said on that podcast. Well, then I send that out to all the franchise heads, and they're going, well, who's this Yahoo, Jeffrey Hayzlett? And pretty soon they're inviting me to go and speak at their conventions. So it's a very effective way to be able to get to people. I recently had the head of SHRM, the Society of HR Management. I recently had the head of International Meeting and Planners Association on my podcast. I'm meeting MPI. I'm now keynoting their next convention and doing a TV show live on their stage. So those are ways in which we do it, and I think it's a very effective way.
Well, Jeff, you also touched on just a little bit right there, repurposing the content. So you took an interview, pulled out what you wanted, and you repurposed it to keep the engine going. That's an amazing
not only
thing.
that,
a lot of people aren't doing it.
Well, not only that, I packaged it in such a way that he took it and sent it to all his members. So even better, was because we put the C-suite name on it and packaged that and did that. He of course did it that way. And now I've got, like SHRM's, Meeting Planners International podcast is now on our network. SHRM is hopefully coming to our network as well with their podcast. So we're doing those things too. Yeah.
Got a couple minutes left. Who else has a question for Jeffrey right now?
There's Nina all the way from down under. There's some thunder from down under right there. Nina,
there you go. You are on with us tonight. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Just continuing on with this idea of using the podcast to monetize yourself, would you ever arrange yourself to be interviewed as one of your episodes so people get to know you?
Oh, wow. You know what? That'd be cool. I'd probably ask myself a question I couldn't answer, but that'd be fun.
Someone else can interview you.
Well, I tell you, what? I'm going to give you another example of a way to grow your audience. Would you like one of those? Is maybe next week, instead of my podcast being on, I say, hey, this week on All Business, you're not hearing me. You're going to be hearing Nina Sunday. And Nina Sunday is my guest on the show. And what I've done to make the best of it, I've actually running one of her episodes as my episode. So we're starting to see that as a massive, massive push. So a cross-pollination. Now we have great cross-pollination. I've been on Nina's show before. I've been on Mike's show before. So we see a lot of those going on. And somebody said, well, Jeff, why don't you have somebody on your show? Well, on my show, my criteria for being on my show is you got to have at least 100,000 followers, be of $1 billion business or greater, or iconic in business. So I've been lucky enough to be able to have like generals, the CEOs of major corporations, movie stars, things like that. So I find other ways to be able to do that. Where I might put Nina on stage or Mike on stage, or we'll do a public meeting and I'll make, hey, have you heard Nina's show, and do a shout out. So we do things differently, but we have a lot of cross promotion between one podcast show to another podcast show. And I'm a little bit of an anomaly because, when you got 1 million downloads or so, that's a little bit different kind of number. And so that's the nature of it. And I don't run from that. I just speak to it like that and tell people, because I have many people who come and do. What's always fun, I have a TV show. My TV show is Executive Perspective, where I actually sit on stage live at an event and then interview people at the event. And so I have, this is where folks that are listening up right now, this is where you frickin' do your homework, because you're an idiot sometimes when you come reach out to a guy like me and you say, hey, Jeff, I want to be on your show. You want me to interview? Yeah, I want you to interview me on my show. Have you seen my show? Oh, yeah. Well, if you knew that, you knew I do it live on a stage at a frickin' convention. So no, you haven't seen my show. And so you see people do this all the time, make big, huge mistakes, or they reach out. I have people reach out about my show, and I send them the criteria. If you can meet this criteria, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have you. And it's not me, it's my producer. But this is how we do it. And, you just have to have good standards for what you do too.
Let's squeeze in one more question here before we let Jeffrey go in just a few moments. But Pete, you got a question. You're back on again, Pete.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm going to take advantage of this one-on-one coaching while I can get it,
Well, you can call me anytime. Everyone in our network knows they can call me anytime and I'll pick up the phone when I can sometimes.
So my question is as follows. So what I've been doing with viral media fundraising has caught on in the C-suite, and there's been a number of prominent clients that are coming on board. The way that I'm doing it right now is one-on-one coaching, and it takes a huge amount of time for each client that I'm working with.
Yeah.
Very recently, I was introduced to a method of how to modularize my content and give it to a larger group of people simultaneously in bits and pieces. So like 12 modules 5 sections in each module, what have you. So I'm going to be doing a massive amount of like mind mapping and laying that out from a modular perspective. I think I've got some of the tools to do that. Could you comment on someone going from as a consultant or a coach who has done it a certain way, like one-on-one coaching, to what they might do or consider best practices for doing that for large groups of people? You know,
Absolutely. We do it all the time. It's funny you should say. I actually got a WhatsApp, Pete, from something that you just did. That you've reached out to somebody. I haven't heard from this person in 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. And she said she got one of your solicitations and it reminded her that she needed to call me and reach out to me. Can you believe that? What a small world this is. And I was thinking, who was that? Who was that? And of course it was you, Pete. I just figured out that was you. So the best way is think about mastermind, think about peer-to-peer. And to put a group like this into a room and have a private kind of meeting and a private sharing of that kind of thing. That's what the C-Suite network is. If you think about it, it is a mastermind at a bigger level, you know, where we get together and we toss around ideas and we have hot seats. So think about those hot seats, Pete, where you can put someone who has an issue or a coaching thing that they need to solve, but it affects so many people by using them as the example to be able to bring that out and talk about it, the breakthroughs that they can see as a result of it. You know, Mike Skripnik participates in one of the most elite groups, which is our Thought Council, and we do this on a regular basis. And even though Mike might not be in that hot seat, everybody else that's on that call, those other 60 other thought leaders, they're all going, oh my God, my mind was just blown. I just got some tidbit out of this that's going to pay for what, you know, my $10,000 membership or my $20,000 membership. And so that's what you want to be able to do. So think about it not so much as always you being the performer, right? But you being the facilitator and bringing that out and saying, what is it that you need? What is the ask that you have for the rest of the group? And now you get all of these other people participating. And one of the ways that we do it, and one of the best ways that you need to think about it is to make sure that we ground ourselves that no one can give advice. Now, you might think that sounds weird. Nope, advice is something you give to somebody and it's from someone who's never done it before. You may give counsel. You may say, I have heard this has happened and you might want to look at it. Or I can say, here's what I did in that exact situation. That's a much more grounded and much more valuable than someone said, hey, Pete, you ought to change your website, you know, rather than, you know, give counsel. Well, when I did my website, here's what I did and here's how I did it. So if you think about it from that perspective, Pete, that could be exponentially powerful. And that's the nature of our councils. That's why we try to do, you know, organize the councils and try to do more and more like that.
Great question, Pete. I hope that helps you out. Jeffrey's got another call coming up in a few minutes. I really want to honor his time. Jeffrey Hayzlett, the CEO, the chairman of C-Suite Network. Jeffrey, before I let you go, any final thoughts, just great nuggets you can give us on how to really rock this stage in a new way?
Well, I always think I actually wrote a note to myself, and I wrote it, and this is the beginning of it today. The golden rules of thought leader. I'm starting this list called the golden rules of being a thought leader. And here's the one I wrote. Treat others as they want to be treated. Not treat, you know, as you want to be treated, as they want to be treated. So what I always try to do when I'm in these situations is think about what can I do the way you want to be treated and how I can deliver for you. So that's a servant mentality of being able to put myself in the needs of how can I make it for you better, not for me better. And so I try to do that as much as I possibly. If you were ever to come on the phone with me and we got together or we jumped on a call, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what can I do for you today? How can I help you? I mean, that's how I answer the phone that way. I answer everything that way, because if I can help you, then maybe there's something good in it for me too. Not that I'm looking for that, but hey, that don't hurt either. I like bacon. I like scotch. I like things like that. So anything you want to send my way is okay.
And that is a foundational part of the C-Suite Network, which Again, this show is now a part of, it's on the C-Suite TV. By the way, Mike Scribnick and I are working on a collaboration. Jeffrey was talking about some of the collaborative ideas. Mike and I are going to be announcing a collaboration very soon that we're very excited about. So it's great to have Mike on the call. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Don't forget, Dr. Kaz will be with me next week. She's going to help us get unstuck. She worked with sports athletes, celebrities, well-known athletes, and executives who get stuck. Her job is to get them moving again. And then in 2 weeks, we're back with the C-Suite. Trisha Ben, Jeffrey's right-hand partner, and the whole Brady Bunch Zoom box world is with us. She does so much more. She's the COO for the company. And we're going to have Trisha back on to talk more about life, leadership, and the whole kind of virtual platform. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we look forward to having you back again. We go live every Wednesday night, and we go live at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Until next week, God bless. Have a great week, everybody, and be safe.